Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Just This is the podcast where I, Just talk about all of the things that I think will just make America just great. And this is not a full episode today. I just wanted to talk about Ken Burns. And someone needs to talk about Ken Burns. Have y'all seen what Ken Burns, the the documentary, the award-winning documentary filmmaker, said on TV recently? And I want to talk about that. I'm going to play his comments for you, but I want to talk about generally champagne liberals and how we got here, who these people are, and why they are so completely divorced from reality. Make sure that you're following me everywhere on X at realkiradavis, on Instagram at justkiradavis, JUST and go subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like. And if you would like to see the edited version of this podcast, where it's not me just pretending that I'm talking to the people on X, you can go sign up for my Substack, justkiradavis.com. But I saw this clip of Ken Burns, documentary filmmaker, talking about how Trump, how Trump's a Nazi. Trump's a Nazi because he cut funding for PBS. Oh my God, what will America do without PBS? What will America do without PBS, you guys? Again, this is, you know what? Let's just do this. I'll play the clip and then I'm going to talk about it because it is the perfect example of where the left is right now, even when it comes to their socialist, the socialist ascendance that's going on there. It's all the same thing. It's just different gradations of it. Let me play.
They killed the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Incredibly short-sighted. It'll hurt mostly rural communities. Maybe that's their intention. There'll be news deserts. Nobody will be covering the school board or the city council meeting. They'll miss not only the children's and primetime programming, but they'll miss Homeland Security stuff, continuing education, classrooms of the air, warning stuff that comes from the PBS signal. We've been hit, but we'll recover. I'm worried about somebody who's coming up right now that has a lot of talent that's not going to get a grant to do that. The American experience has been put consciously on hiatus for a while. It will be revitalized. It's got an incredible back catalog that can help remind us about what it is. It's not all doom and gloom. PBS has not been cut. It will take a hit. It's had to lay off lots of people at the national level as a kind of protective measure to try to get leaner as we face these things.
All right. He says there will be news deserts. People won't be covering the school boards, the city council meetings, what's going on locally. America, when is the last time you turned to PBS to find out what happened at your local school board meeting or your city council meeting? Do you even know what channel PBS is in your area? Have you ever seen a PBS reporter at your school board meeting? Does Ken Burns even know how PBS works? PBS doesn't have reporters, Ken, that just go out there and I'm working for PBS covering the local school board. PBS has to buy that content from actual reporters who do the actual work. And they buy that content through tax dollars that we have sent PBS to buy the content. And then the outlet that the reporter works for then has to buy the airtime on PBS to air the content. It's just a big circle of funding. That's how it works. PBS buys content that is made by people who get money from the government to make that content. And then they rent or lease or buy the space on the PBS brand or broadcasting airwaves. It's a ridiculous money laundering scam. But furthermore, the idea that Ken Burns thinks that there are people out there getting their news and getting their information on anything, let alone school board and city council meetings, that's absolutely absurd. It's as if he's never heard of the internet. It's as if he's never heard Instagram. This is why I wanted to break this clip down. There's so much here. I'll start with the idea that he is so far removed from the American experience. He has the nerve at the end of this clip to talk about how the American experience is on hold for him. What American experience is he talking about? He's having a totally different experience. It's almost as though Ken Burns has not been in America, and he probably hasn't been for the majority of the last 25 to 30 years. He's probably spent a large portion of his time outside of the country, dining out on all his documentary experience. News deserts? In the news desert. Again, this is a man, and he represents the Democrat Party. This is Chuck Schumer's problem. This is Nancy Pelosi's problem. This was Kamala Harris's problem, the Biden family's problem, the Clintons' problem, all the old guard of the Democrat Party, and probably to a certain extent, Gavin Newsom, who's trying to become the new guard, but I don't think it's going to work because he doesn't understand his own party. But this is that group of people who they're the champagne liberals. They have made their name on speaking for the working class, speaking for the common American in a way. And Ken Burns is one of these people, right? That's what his documentaries are, documentaries of the American experience, documentaries of average Americans. And so they fancy themselves as people who speak for the average American. And they do it in entertainment, they do it in politics, they do it in history. And for a long time they did. For a long time they did represent that class. We all looked to them for wisdom, for the visualization of the American story and the American experience. There weren't many other avenues to get those experiences. So we did look to them, even looking to PBS for those things, looking to PBS for our children's programming, going there for the occasional news program, and even for the occasional Ken Burns documentary. There was a time when people did that more commonly, and the liberals therefore learned how to talk to those people through those avenues. They learned how to dominate or master those avenues and that form of diplomacy. And they were really good at it all the way up through the Obama era. But by the time Obama left, we were pretty much sick of it. We were sick of the diplomats who looked at us and told us that they cared for our experience and they loved our experience, and they really valued our experience because wasn't it so quaint and such a great part of the American experience. We were tired of people who looked at us and told us those things, but then acted and governed in a completely different way. And Americans got super sick of that. That's why Trump was such a cultural force. His bluntness, his boldness, even to this day, sort of changed the taste we have for our politicians. The Ken Burns of the world, they're still in the Clinton Obama days. They don't understand that the menu has completely changed. So he still is in this era. And because he froze in that bubble, he may have worked his way up. I don't know his past, but he may have worked his way up into that bubble. And he may have worked his way into that bubble by genuinely reflecting the experiences of average Americans. But then once he got in that bubble, I think Howard Stern is a great example of this as well. Then he just froze there, froze in time, froze as just a member of the elites. And he never had any competing information then coming in from outside. But not only that, he didn't want to leave the bubble. It was very comfortable. That's where all of his experiences started and stopped. So when the landscape changed, he didn't know. He really didn't. And he was one of those people who could go look at Trump and look at his Trump supporter, look at Trump supporters and go, oh, well, they must be Nazis because I don't understand. I don't know what this movement is because he can't see outside the walls of his bubble. So now here he is in 2025 saying that people in rural America who can't turn on PBS simply will live in a news desert. That's because he is frozen in 1999. That's where the Democrat Party is frozen. And the people who have recognized that we don't live in 1999 anymore, unfortunately, those people are the far left progressives who are the Marxists and the socialists who are going to destroy their party and are looking to destroy America. They're the only ones that get it, that the times have changed and you need different candidates and you need different messages and you need different ways to spread those messages. They don't get it. So Ken Burns looks at you in the Midwest, in flyover country, in rural America, which he says was such disdain. Isn't that it's the worst? The way the liberals say it is the worst. It's dripping with the worst kind of condescension because they try to make it sound like they care, right? They are trying to make it sound like they care about you. Well, what about the rural people? The people in rural America? It's like that interviewer who was talking to Sydney Sweeney, that GQ interview the other day. And she was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm so glad because I was so worried about that for you." Like, it's so bizarre how fake it is and that they still use it as if they sound completely sincere. Like they don't know how completely insincere they sound. It's incredible. That's how it is. Or it's the same tone of voice that liberals will look at you as a black person. They'll look at you and they'll go, you know, abortion is really important for the black community because black women should have a say over what happens to their bodies, knowing that black bodies have been oppressed for so long. Mm, Abortion is really important for black women. Meanwhile, in my head, I'm like thinking, well, no, all I'm hearing you tell me is that America would be better off with fewer black people in it. So no, I can't get on board with it. But they say it like they're really saying something kind. And that's how Ken Burns was talking in rural America, because he's so concerned with rural America in his pristine, soulless, modern, like structured kitchen and dining room in the background with like no character, just completely bland. Right. He wants to talk about rural America, but people like him do this all the time. They're so concerned about rural Americans as if you're just not going to get the news if Ken Burns doesn't deliver it to you, if PBS doesn't deliver it to you. And it's just incredible to me that in 2025, he doesn't think that people get their news from literally everywhere else except PBS. Again, a sign that this is a man who is living in a country that does not exist anymore. And he's the one out there accusing you and Trump and everyone else who's not sitting on the far left of wanting to preserve some form of America that doesn't exist anymore. Oh, they want America to be, that white supremacist America, that America of supremacy where everyone was white and we had these homogenous communities. That's them. Again, it's all projection. That's what they want. That's what he wants to preserve. He's living in an America of 30, 40, 50 years ago where the tastemakers were the documentary makers of the world. And the Ken Burnses of the world got to go to the cocktail parties at Harvard and on Capitol Hill and talk about you hillbillies in flyover country and talk about all of the ideas that will work for them. And then talk about how you persuade them. How do you talk down to their level so that they understand how to vote? That's the world that the Ken Burnses of the world want to see come back. That's what they believe. That's the world they're living in, and that's the world they want to preserve. They hate that you can get information on your own. They hate that you can just open your phone that you have with you all day long and get any information from any source all over the world. They hate it. And they're so dumb and so old and so out of touch. They think that you get your news from PBS when almost to a person, most people in America don't even know what PBS is anymore. And as he pointed out, it's not gone. It's still around. But if PBS wants to compete, they'll have to get their dollars from their donors or their states, not the federal government. So again, if there's a market for it, Ken, if people want to see the news that's on PBS, they'll find a way to get it, won't they? It's not like the people in rural America are so stupid. Think about it, Ken. Think about what you just said. If the people in rural America are so dependent on PBS for their news and their information and their knowledge, and then PBS now has just gone away, or all of that part has gone away because of big bad Trump, won't they notice that it's gone? Won't they notice that they're missing their news the news that they can't get anywhere else. They can't get their city council news. All of a sudden, they're not getting that vital school board meeting news. All of a sudden, aren't they going to notice that, Ken? And then won't they ask about it? Won't they call the radio station or write write PBS or write their senator? Won't they do that, Ken, if it's so important to them? If there's so many people that depend on it? Right. They will. But of course, you don't see those campaigns because nobody watches PBS. Ken's just mad because PBS is the only place you can see his documentaries anymore. If you don't go to CBS, nobody's searching for Ken Burns clips on TikTok, are they? But again, it's so elite. It's so elitist. Okay, just not to torture you with this, but let's just continue on with this.
Meeting, they'll miss not only the children's and primetime programming, but they'll miss, Homeland Security stuff, continuing education, classrooms of the air, warning stuff that comes.
Warning systems, continuing education, the city council meetings. Again, does PBS air city council meetings? Does your local station? I mean, let's just be fair. If it's your local regional public broadcasting station, they do air a lot. Does yours air the school board meetings? Have you ever? Ken, if I want to see a school board meeting, I go to the school board website and I click on their live feed. That's at least where I start to look. I've never once considered going to PBS for a school board meeting, even back in the day when all we had was TV to look at. Like, what is this version of America? It's not even real. Again, liberals are out there voting. They're out there voting and protesting and battling for an America that isn't real. It just exists in their minds. And that's why they're always accusing you of wanting an America that exists in your mind. Oh, when was America great again? America was great when you guys weren't in charge. That's when America was the best. We want that America back.
From the PBS signal. We've been
the warning systems. Is PBS helping me with my early earthquake warning, Ken? No, that's my phone. Here in California, I get an early earthquake warning. I don't depend on PBS for the warnings. I don't depend on PBS for anything. If there is an emergency in California, I go directly to the governor's X feed, directly to the mayor's Instagram feed, directly to the city services, the city hall, health department, Capitol Hill, my senator, 480 billion other places before I get to friggin' PBS for an emergency warning. Again, here's Ken accusing the people in flyover country of being so ignorant that if PBS goes away, they won't have their warning systems. But it's Ken that is so ignorant that he doesn't understand that nobody gets their freaking warnings from PBS. You complete moron.
Hit, but we'll recover. I'm worried about somebody who's coming up right now that has a lot of talent that's not going to get a grant to do that. The American experience has been put consciously on hiatus for a while. It will be revitalized. It's got an incredible back catalog that can help remind us about what it is. It's not all.
This is my bad. I thought when he was talking about it earlier, he was just talking about the vague American experience. He was talking about his show, American Experience. Again, you know why Ken's talking like this. His show, The American Experience, has been put on the back burner. It's not getting federal dollars. Remember how Elon told us that the big news about Doge, which is still going on, everybody. It's just Elon's been removed, so we're not getting all of the heated daily stories, but it's still going on. But remember, and Elon said, you're going to discover how much of your tax dollars are going to fund the enemy, going to fund your opponents. It's like the Truman Show. This is one of those things where now Ken Burns is telling you, the mask is off. He's telling you, the American Experience has a great back catalog, but it's on the back burner because no one's funding it. Because if the private market has to fund it, they won't, because it's boring, because no one watches Ken Burns anymore, because no one watches PBS. And no one watches that drivel. The kids think it's boring. Some of his work might be interesting to old people like me. Ken cannot compete in the free market, and he's just admitted it.
All doom and gloom. PBS has not been cut. it will take a hit. It's had to lay off lots of people at the national level as a kind of protective measure to try to get leaner.
As a protective measure to try to get leaner. These weren't essential jobs then, were they? These were jobs that could have been cut the whole time. And the difference is, Ken, between PBS and you is PBS is funded by me and you, funded by the taxpayers. It's funded by the taxpayers. So when you say, oh, the national PBS has had to make some cuts preemptively, they're not even up against it yet. They're just doing it preemptively. They have had to make these cuts preemptively. What you're telling the American people is we never needed to fund those jobs in the first place. You have been wasting our money. We're finding it out too with this whole SNAP EBT thing too, aren't we? We're seeing those lines around the corners for food banks, and we don't feel sorry for those people. It's having the opposite effect. I saw a line last night. It was in New Jersey, I think. First day of the SNAP benefits not being available on this particular region's EBT cards. And the food bank lines were around the corner. Around the corner. Every last person in line was obese. I'm not making it up. I'm not trying to be funny. Every last person was obese. I think we're learning that we've been giving people a lot of our tax dollars that they don't need, and we can put Ken Burns in that category and the entire staff of PBS. They have been wasting so much of our money that they can actually make austerity cuts before the hammer drops. We never needed that. And Ken has no care. Ken doesn't even think to ask, well, gee whiz, why were the taxpayers being asked to fund all these jobs when clearly they weren't needed? PBS can function without them.
As we face these things, it's a big deal. They killed the.
All right, that's it. We can stop sharing that now. These are the champagne liberals. They have a fantasy about who the rest of America is. And you know they do because you see that person in the Hollywood movies that you watch, right? If they run into a nice couple or a nice family from the Midwest or from the South, that the main characters do, they're always hicks, they're always dumb, they're always country, they're always, toothless, like they're very stereotypical. But the reason why those people are in the movies is because of the people who's writing those movies. Those people live on the coast, those people live next door to Ken Burns. And that's what they think of you. That's what they think about the rest of America, that you are sitting in your double wide trailer watching PBS and chain smoking cigarettes all day long. And that's the only place you get your news. And so if they can't fund PBS and get that news to you, you're just not getting any news. But just again, to reiterate my point, they are the ones who live in ignorance. And they project that onto the rest of us. I say this a lot too. The coastal elites, they don't get it. They don't get it. I live here on the coast too, but I'm not one of them. But they don't get it. They think that you're the bumpkins, you're the hicks because you live in the middle of the country and you're not cultured. Some of the most cultured people are in the Midwest. The idea that there's like somehow culture and arts and expression have somehow missed the middle of America. It's so weird. It is such an annoyingly elitist attitude from the coastal bubble dwellers. But, some of the most artistic and creative people you will find are in flyover country. They're the smart ones. They're living where it's affordable, where they can do their art. Second of all, when you live in the Midwest or you live in flyover country, if you want to go visit the rest of the world, you got to make your way to the coast first. You got to go to New York, Miami, LA. You got to go to Chicago, right? You got to go to a major city. A lot of times y'all are going to spend the night in that city. Maybe you go out for dinner. Maybe you go see a show. Maybe you'll go do a little touring. My point is this. It's the people in flyover country who are cultured. They're the ones with the culture because they're the ones that get out and see more of America and have more of the American experience. Ken Burns, you're the one, you stay on the coast. And when you leave the country, you leave from the coast. You don't get your hands dirty with the unwashed masses in the middle of the country. And that's how they look at us. And that's why this isn't a battle of left versus right anymore. And it's not a battle of Democrats versus Republicans. This is this is America versus anti-America. It really is. and the anti-Americans think that they're the ones who should be running things. You look at a guy like Ken Burns sitting there saying with a straight face and saying it with this tone of voice that is just so sorry. He's just like calm, professorial tone, that liberal sort of khaki pants lilt to his voice, sort of like, I'm one of you. I'm really just, I'm a man of peace. I make love, not war. I make movies, not arguments. I just worry about the middle of the country and how will they get their news? They're not going to get their news about their city council meetings or their school board meetings. I mean, just being so magnanimous as if they care. And the truth is they hate you. They hate your school board meetings. They hate that you go to your school board meetings. They don't want you to know about the school board meetings. They just want you to know enough so you don't go. Ken Burns is exactly the type of person who accused people like me and you of being terrorists for going to our school board meetings. So he can flip all the way off with that nonsense. And then they wonder, gee whiz, what's going wrong? Why didn't they vote for us? Why didn't they want us to be in charge? It's so confusing. Like, no, we hate you because you hate us and we can see it. It's dripping from your lips. It drips from every word. You think what you're saying is innocuous, Ken. You think what you said was just sort of this no-brainer. I just wish, too bad for the poor dumb people. We can see it. We can see your hatred. It's so visible, Ken. It is right there. We know you hate us. We don't want your dumb PBS. We haven't wanted it for quite a while. No one's listening to it. Welcome to 2025. It's not just that they hate you. It's that they hate that you're right. I'll end with this. They hate that you're right. Ken Burns of the world, the PBS lovers of the world, the Bulwarks, the Bill Cristols, the Lincoln Projects, of those people who you at once had some kind of respect for, even if it was begrudging, because you appreciated their intellect, you appreciated how they seemed at least to entertain all sides of the story, and they gave you food for thought. And then suddenly they went off the rails when Trump showed up onto the scene. It's not Trump. It's not even really you that they hate. What they hate is that you made them wrong. What they hate is they are wrong. They could always give you that, well, I'm open-minded and I see both sides of the story. I'm going to look at both sides of the story. They could always give you that when they knew that they were in charge of the intellectual stables. You know what I mean? Like they were in charge of the messaging. They were in charge of the influencing. And they were the ones that people looked to for influence and looked to for value and advice. And they were happy in those perches. But when Trump came along, we didn't need them anymore. We didn't need the Bill Cristols. We didn't need the Bulwarks. We didn't need the Ken Burnses of the world. We didn't need them anymore. And that made them mad. And that's when their true colors came out. They never cared about you or educating you or dialoguing with you. And they certainly never cared about what you thought. They only cared that you liked them and that you looked up to them. So the minute you deviated from what they believed was right and you deviated to your own thoughts and beliefs, and then when those thoughts and beliefs turned out to be right, that's what burned them. That's what burned Ken Burns, because he doesn't like you and you're right. And that's what this is. That's all. That's what his tantrum is. Ken, go make some documentaries that people are really interested in. Put them on Instagram and watch them take off. Nobody gets their frickin' news from PBS. What an absolutely retarded thing to say. Ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous. But this is why they're so out of touch. And every time one of them, like Ken, gets out there and says something like this, it reminds me of how far apart we are. We live in two different ecosystems. We're not going to compromise with these people. We have to win. There's no compromise. Nuke the filibuster. Nuke the frickin' filibuster. Nuke it and then pass everything. You have 1 year. Congress. You have 1 year to convince Americans that you mean business about changing everything. We can never go back. We can't let these people win again. Can you imagine? We can't let these people run things again. Not for a long time, not till they figure out what's wrong with themselves. We have to win. When you see a guy like Ken Burns out there talking all this mess, that should be an alarm bell that these people are too disconnected from the real American experiment, the real American experience to be of any help. They're dangerous. We have to beat them. We have to win. And defund all of PBS. I can't wait to see it sink into oblivion. Ken, show me a school board meeting on PBS. Hit me up. See ya.